Colemono on Tour.
Bueno, estamos acá en una entrevista exclusiva para Colemono con Alex Daniel, escritor de Itchy Tasty, trabaja para Braveway Productions y trabaja para Limited Run en este momento, tiene muchos proyectos. Alex, thank you for joining us here in Colemono, Chile, Argentina. How are you?
Great. Hello, everybody. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Perfect. Enough. Alex, is this your first time in Brazil, or have you been here before?
Actually, it's my fourth time in Brazil.
Okay.
I've been to Latin America, South America even, like several times, because I like to travel outside, of work and gaming. So this has been here a few times, actually.
Okay, the weather's not really with us this time. It's been raining a lot, so...
Yeah, people might have this image of South America being like a warm, tropical place, and it is most of the time.
But not so rainy usually.
During BGS and the previous event I came to in Sao Paulo, it was not very good weather-wise.
Alex, well, first of all, we wanted to talk about Itchy Tasty, your book about the unofficial history of Resident Evil. You're obviously a fan, you've said it several times, but how do you start with this? What was the first step that you took? Because one thing is being a fan, and it's a very different thing when you go and start interviewing the people related to the games.
Sure. As you may know, I've been a fan of Resident Evil since I was a kid. I was actually a bit of a latecomer to the IP, I guess relatively speaking, because my first game was Code Veronica. So I played that in mid-2000. So the PlayStation trilogy had come out by that point, and there was already an established fan base. But I was pretty hooked into Resident Evil as soon as I started playing it. And so I tend to be very, if I want to do something or if I like something, I really put a lot of effort into it. And when I found out that Resident Evil was a Japanese-made game, and at the time in the 2000s, Resident Evil used to come out in Japan before anywhere else. So I wanted to play the games as early as possible, and I thought learning Japanese would help me do that. So I decided to study Japanese. I grew up, got through high school, graduated, went to university where I majored in Japanese, and that's actually in 2007 was when I moved to Japan to continue learning the language. And so it was supposed to be a short-term stay, but I ended up actually never really leaving. I ended up getting a job there in the game industry, funny enough. And the longer I lived in Japan, the more capable I became of using the language, verbally written. And so as I worked in the industry, I also started becoming acquainted with many of the people who made the games throughout the years, even Shinji Mikami or Hideki Kamiya, Kazuhiro Aoyama, Noritaka Funamizu, people who were influential in the IP in some sort of way, through either personal connections or through work. I became acquainted with them, and obviously being very interested in Resident Evil, I would talk about, how did you make the game? Why did you do this? I really loved that boss and that character, and people always have very interesting stories to tell about how they make games, why they make games, So when I realized at some point that there are a lot of Resident Evil fans out there, and I don't think any one Resident Evil fan is better or more important than another, but I did think I was in a pretty unique position as a bilingual English-Japanese speaking person who worked in the game industry. I think that allowed me to develop and build a very specific perspective on game development and why Resident Evil games are made. And I knew all these stories, I knew all these anecdotes, I knew generally why Resident Evil was why Capcom began making Resident Evil. I knew how it progressed and the struggles they had, and of course a lot of that information was available to the community, but it wasn't like in one place. It wasn't structured in an academic kind of way, and so I thought I had just a unique combination of experience and skills and language knowledge that allowed me to write the book.
Okay. Yes. Well, you certainly were. You had contact with Tokuro Fujiwara as well?
Yes, I do actually. Tokuro Fujiwara.
Excuse my pronunciation.
No. I just
No.
I lived in Japan so long. I just pronounce it kind of like as a native. But yeah, Fujiwara-san. I first met him in 2017 to interview him for my book. I actually have a copy here. Since you're filming, maybe we should have like...
Oh, sure. You want to...
Have it in the... No, it's upside down.
Upside down.
I actually have it here.
It's been translated to Spanish?
It has been. European Spanish, yes. I don't know if it's easy for people here to read. It's
kind of the same. It's like the difference between Portuguese from Portugal and Portuguese from Brazil.
Right.
Or English from England and English from the Americas. It's kind of like that. So,
okay. Yeah. Yes. Fujiwara-san was one of the initial people I interviewed, and he was very happy to talk to me about it. He had been out of the spotlight for such a long time, and so like I found his anecdotes and his recollection of the history of especially the first Resident Evil game to be very, very interesting and very provocative. I think I guess to answer your initial question, the event that really motivated me to write the book was GDC 2017. So that took place in March, so just a few months after Resident Evil 7 came out. And as many people might remember, the period between 6 and 7 was probably one of the less flattering points of the series history. But RE7 came out, made most people happy, and I think that was, for the first time in at least 5 years, the future of Resident Evil seemed very, very promising. But at GDC, the director, Koshi Nakanishi, gave a talk at the show outlining a lot of the decisions that they made and why they rebooted or they changed Resident Evil significantly after RE6 had come out. And they talked about their photogrammetry technology and the RE engine. And it was a very interesting chat. And Nakanishi-san himself is a very colorful and expressive and a very fun person to talk to. And after the talk ended, and there's usually a little bit of time after every talk to just talk with the keynote speakers. I was one of the few in San Francisco where GDC took place who could speak Japanese. And so I just kind of went up to Nakanishi-san and said, hey, I really loved the game. I really loved the talk. I was really impressed with how Resident Evil 7 turned out. I loved Resident Evil Revelations 1, the first game. He also directed that. And so that's kind of how we met for the first time, and then we stayed in touch. But yeah, that was like the GDC talk for Resident Evil 7 was the moment where I'm like, well, someone needs to put this into a book, right? I'm a little old-fashioned. I'm pretty sure like other creators will make YouTube videos and cool stuff like that. But I'm more of a writer than like a videographer. And so, yeah, that's how the book kind of came together. That's how I came up with the idea to write the book.
Well, books last longer. The internet usually, websites just fade away, but the books stay. So what you did was right. So about getting the developers to talk, Japanese industry is usually very secretive. They don't talk a lot. Even today, you read books like the Untold History of Japanese Developers, and sometimes they don't even know they're famous. It's like
it's a very common.
In decades, they don't want to talk. I'm sure. I don't think I should talk about this. Did you have any kind of problems getting this information, writing down this information?
Maybe I'm a little biased because I live in Japan and speak Japanese and work in the Japanese game industry, but I don't think Japanese developers are inherently more secretive than anybody else. I just think there's an obvious language gap, right? And there could be like cultural considerations here as well, depending on whom you ask. But in Japan especially, like if you go out drinking with someone, like that's usually when they open up, and that's
Just like Chile.
okay, yeah, absolutely. I never really had any problems getting them to open up and talk about their experiences. There is usually some concern about the publishers not being happy with with former or current developers talking about stuff off of the record or outside of the PR, the typical PR structure that game companies have. But I think, people are very open about their experiences. Often they will say, this is just my personal opinion. This is not necessarily going to be the same as somebody else's experience. And so usually they have that disclaimer. But I think going back to the question, one of the challenges a lot of Western journalists face is they're very passionate about Japanese games, but they themselves don't speak Japanese, so they either have to find an interpreter. They often don't live in Japan, so there's a significant expense in going there. And in Japan, like a lot of relationships, you have to develop them to a certain extent to get them to open up, and a lot of things like that. And I think being in the space that I am, right, especially at Brave Wave, which you did mention that earlier. Brave Wave started because of my business partner, Mohammed. My friend Mohammed really had a strong affinity for Japanese game composers, like Mega Man's composer and Ninja Gaiden's. But those people didn't know they were famous and that they had fans outside of Japan. And so Brave Wave as a side hustle / business of mine is focused on connecting Japanese game creators with their fans in outside of Japan. And that's actually why I'm here in BGS, because I'm here with Yoko Shimomura. She's one of the people I work with, and Parasite Eve composer, I guess, Resident Evil adjacent in a way. That's why I'm here. So yeah, the book is basically just me, giving out the knowledge and experience I happen to have.
Also regarding the book, is the unofficial history of Resident Evil, did you ever even consider making it unofficial? Did you ever try to go to through the channels?
Because, well, it is titled that way, to be honest, because, I did talk to Capcom ahead of time. I do get to work with Capcom in a professional capacity, and out of deference and respect for them, I said, hey, I really like Resident Evil. I'm writing this book, and I understand that typically you prefer to license stuff, but there is this element of journalistic and literary independence that I think is very important when you're writing a book like this. And so I did not want to make it official. And I'm not saying this is what Capcom would have done, but often if you have an official history of something, you get the version of the story the marketing team wants to tell. And then that could be very entertaining and meaningful in a lot of ways. But for what I wanted to do, it wasn't really the right fit. And so we came to an agreement, and I agreed to put unofficial in the title.
Okay. I get you. Don't worry. Yes, you're right. It's usually, as you said, it's the marketing that makes the decisions when you have to write the official history. You wanted to make something more raw, maybe more personal.
Yes, there's a bit of a personal angle in this book. Not too much, I don't think. At least I that was not my intention. But yeah, like a lot of my personal experiences are interspersed throughout the book, and I try not to do too much of it. But yeah, it's definitely not something that I think any game company out there would really sign off on. Right? Maybe an indie dev would somewhere, but yeah, definitely not like a big production like Resident Evil.
Okay, and was there any at all, or any stuff that Capcom or someone said, no, you can't put this there? That's just out of the question.
Nope.
No legal problems, nothing that said, no. Nope. I'm telling you this, but don't write it down.
Once I got the sign off,
you don't have to give names. Don't worry.
They didn't even check the book before it came out.
Do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, basically, in general, not talking specifically about the book, my book, but in general, as long as you're not lying about something or you're not intentionally misrepresenting someone, to their detriment, right? Like you're not, like causing problems like that could affect somebody's business or their reputation.
A lot of people do that just for the sales,
Yeah, and I don't think there's anybody in the Resident Evil history that would even, be anywhere near that sort of thing to begin with. But yeah, like officially it is my opinion.
Yeah,
and my understanding and my interpretation of the history of Resident Evil. But when you talk to the people themselves, I think there's a certain credibility to it.
Okay. So regarding the people that you talked to, you said like Takuro Fujiwara. You talked to him rather recently, 8 years ago. Well, 8 years ago to me it's like yesterday. But
I work with him actually at Limited Run as well, because we did the Tomba special edition release together.
Yes, he founded Whoopi Camp after he left Capcom.
Yes.
Made it to Tomba Games, then folded, unfortunately. Then I think he kind of retired after that. Maybe he did some more stuff. But
so the way he explained it to me is that he never retired. It's just that he's never been like a front-facing kind of person, like in terms of like marketing and PR. Like he prefers to kind of stay in the background, right? In the 90s, he was one of the top 3 people at Capcom, so he would have to go to interviews and promote the game. But like after he went to Whoopi Camp, after Tomba came out, he kind of just stayed in the background. But he did work on a few games like Extermination and things like that. He worked on a Ghosts and Goblins game on the PSP back in 2006.
I think he was also on the most recent. One. I'm not completely sure.
He was a director.
But yes, they brought him back.
Yeah.
Every time there's a new Ghosts and Goblins, they call him.
I don't think anyone else can make a Ghosts and Goblins.
Yes,
at least the way
we love
he
this.
could.
I love the series, but
it's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but we've been playing. We're all over 40, so we've been playing games for a real long time. And he's kind of a legend. We've made a couple of Capcom specials on our show. We talk for like 5-6 hours about Capcom and that kind of stuff. We've been through each game, so we talk about Takuro. Miss Fujiwara-san, I'm sorry, a lot of times.
No, you're either one's fine.
And lately he's been posting on X, formerly Twitter. And
Fujiwara-san, really?
yes, he has an account. Oh, supposedly that's him.
Can you show me this account?
I think that was him, right?
He's actually quite...
Yes. No, I'm sorry. That was Akira Kitamura. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's the father of Mega Man.
I know him too, yes.
No, yes.
Different
Kitamura-san, he's a... Yes, Kitamura has started... Yes. Yeah, the father of Mega Man. Yes.
Kitamura-san's great. Yeah, we connected with Kitamura-san due to Brave Wave, actually. So...
Yes, I know.
Mohammed.
The music, the CD that was released recently, the one with the Mega Man. Yes,
he did the artwork for that.
Yes, I loved it. It was great. And he's been posting recently on X, and it's kind of what I said before, that they're like, oh, all those people from overseas know me? It's like, they're shocked, and he even started a campaign recently where he's, there's a paywall, but you can read what his history. So this is a little what I was talking before about maybe not being secretive, but they're not, Japanese developers sometimes are not aware of how famous they are outside of Japan. They think, it's a job.
I guess just for transparency, the paywall is because that's his only
source. No.
That's his only
Don't get me wrong. No, I'm not saying he has to live.
He does. He's got to feed himself. He doesn't have any projects on at the moment.
I know. I didn't say that as a derogatory, as something bad. No, it's great.
If anyone
and it's cheap. If anything, it's cheap. He should be charging more.
If anyone in the indie dev community wants to work with him, he might, be open to it.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. I was talking about Fujiwara-san. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I got confused.
No problem.
I'm old, so that happens.
It's good.
I'm sorry. I lost my track of.
So you're talking about Fujiwara-san,
We're talking about Fujiwara. Like we said, we went through all the Capcom games. And we were like, yes, he was the planner on this, and then he was planning like. Most of the games in the 80s, that was him, the designer, planner. It's like...
so he was the head of the console games development section at Capcom. So Capcom had arcades, right?
Yeah.
Street Fighter 2, Final Fight.
Yeah,
and then there's
sections,
And then there's the console section that was run by Fujiwara-san. Yoshiki Okamoto ran the arcade division. And so in a lot of ways, it was like two different companies.
Yes.
Right. There wasn't a lot of intersection between the two.
Until the arcade section started to implode, and I think that's when they brought everyone together for the console.
Yeah, like in the mid '90s
Yes,
when
the
home
arcades
consoles were becoming more and more
relevant. Yes, exactly.
prominent with the PlayStation, especially.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you said before you started playing Resident Evil with Code Veronica in the early 2000s, late 90s. You were a gamer before that, right? You were playing maybe not horror games because you're a little younger than us.
Sure.
And this, maybe I should ask this question later, but I want to ask it now. Have you ever considered writing about another video game, another saga?
Actually, I have. I barely have enough time to write my second book. But I mean, I would love to write a book about Silent Hill, like in the same manner that I wrote.
I was hoping
Itchy
you'd say
Tasty.
Ghosts and Goblins, but okay, that's good enough.
Well, I mean,
Silent Hill is good enough.
I feel like someone who writes a book about Ghosts and Goblins should be able to get past the first one. And I'm probably, I could, I guess, but
You
like
just
I
have
can't.
to practice a lot. It's just memory.
I can't beat the game. Never mind doing it twice, right? Just to get to the real ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, Silent Hill would be a game I'd love to write a book about. Just because I think a lot of the creators have very interesting stories to tell. And
You have a contact with Yamaoka already, Yamaoka-san already?
yeah, Yamaoka-san, I know him.
Yes.
I had dinner with Al Yang, the director of Silent Hill F, just last week, actually.
Oh, great.
He's a really good guy. He also directed Resident Evil Resistance, so
He was in a
Resident Evil
presentation,
adjacent.
in a video presentation, but he was in a presentation the other day, I think here at BGS. They showed him and he talked a little. I think it was him. I'm not sure they said it was him, but it was just a brief video, like.
Was it like a video?
Yeah. The
Oh,
30
yeah,
seconds. He was like, yeah, hi everybody, I hope you enjoy the game. And
I could see him, doing that.
But okay, so Silent Hill, we were talking yesterday about what might he write next, and Silent Hill was probably the first one that we talked about. So
well, that was actually Silent Hill. The first Silent Hill was the first horror game I ever played. So I played that before Code Veronica. So the story goes, well, not the story goes, but really what happened was my brother had rented a copy of Silent Hill from Blockbuster Video, like where you can rent games. I was living in California at the time, where I'm from, and he showed me this game. He's like, "Oh, this game is called Silent Hill. It's really, really scary." I was 13 at the time, so when someone tells you something is really scary, you're like, "Oof," But I watched him play like the first part, where it begins.
Yes,
the Jeep
in
is
the fog,
crashed.
the camera.
It's foggy. He's chasing his daughter. And I remember just thinking when I was 13, like, why is his daughter running away from him? Like, why is there so much fog? Yeah, as a 13-year-old, you're like, what's going on here? And we get into the alleyway, if you remember.
Yeah.
Sorry for the spoilers if no one's played this game.
Sorry for the spoiler for a 30-year-old game.
And then he gets attacked by those monsters. Well, the funny thing is he dies, right? And then the screen goes black. But you know what my brother did? He's like, I'm done playing this game. Boop.
No.
He turned it off.
That's the best part.
So he and I thought he died because he didn't kill the monsters properly. We didn't realize that was a scripted event, and you're supposed to wait literally another 5 seconds before the cutscene plays, right?
Well, when you're young, you're like that, you're impatient.
This is a validation for why, cartridges are better than discs, right? There's no loading times.
The Resident Evil 2 version on the N64 is better than the PS1.
I think it looks better, at least. Yeah,
it's 640 by 480, but the backgrounds are all washed up and the sound is.
If you have the expansion pack, I think visually it looks better.
The polygons look better, but the backgrounds are still a little washed, and the sound is never.
Even at the higher resolution.
Yeah, because it increases the resolution of the polygons, but the backgrounds are like the same images.
Are they? So, that would.
No,
yeah.
I love it. I love that version. Even with the shortcomings, Angel Studios did a miracle with that. Nobody else could have done that.
Yeah, the expansion pack.
But the polygons, the characters do look a lot better. A lot better.
Yeah, I played that version actually just a weeks ago because I have a CRT set up in my condo in Tokyo. Looks pretty good on a.
It looks
you have a
great.
Sony PVM.
Yeah. But it had those shortcomings common for a cartridge, but it's still an incredible book. Like I said,
Right.
there was a great postmortem on. I can't remember the website.
Gama Sutra, right?
Gama Sutra.
Yeah,
right.
that's a legendary
Yeah.
piece. I referenced it in my book as
Yeah,
well.
they changed it now. It's no longer Gama Sutra. I was shocked. I was looking for Gama Sutra and I couldn't find anything. Or
Did they take it down?
I think they changed the name. But because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. I was looking for that postmortem. Well, I don't want to take it. Yeah, there's the game devs now. I think.
Oh, they changed the name.
Yeah. Someone bought it, and
I guess the name Gama Sutra is kind of strange.
it's kind of.
right?
I
For,
thought it was sexual at first. I was like, what? This is not what I was looking for.
I mean, it's fitting in terms of the knowledge.
Yeah.
Encyclopedia.
But maybe not so much.
Yeah, the affiliation otherwise is probably a little.
Yeah, a lot of
strange.
people were very frustrated with that when they Gama Sutra. It's just interviews.
Not safe for work.
Yeah, but Angel Studios did an incredible work with that part. Well, back to your book. Like I said, it's been translated to Spanish. It's been translated to Portuguese.
Not Portuguese. Yeah.
No, really. Mario,
Yeah.
I think Mario told me just Spanish and English.
So it's been ported.
It's
been
ported
translated.
too? It's
It's been
okay.
translated into French.
Probably French. Yeah,
It's been translated into Polish.
Okay.
It's been translated into Spanish.
Yeah.
It's been translated into Russian.
okay.
So, and then obviously English is the original
English is-
language. So there are 5 versions of the book. There are 5 versions of the book. It is coming out in a new language next year. I won't say what language that is.
Okay. I thought you were going.
It's a language that's very relevant to me personally. Wink,
Okay.
wink. But yeah.
Well, so it's been very successful. So, do you realize you feel like you've achieved something? You feel like you want to do more? That's good enough.
I don't think I can become a full-time author. Like,
Okay.
I think that's just once I'm done writing about Resident Evil, if I don't write about Silent Hill, I'm not going to be able to write about anything really. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy it's successful, but I don't think it's successful because of anything I did. I just think there's a lot of Resident Evil fans out there, and it's a very passionate and supportive community, and I think that's why a lot of people have read it, and I'm very happy about that.
Well, yeah. You say it's maybe not something that you did with Resident Evil, but you wrote it, so it's like your baby. So people obviously connected with the way you wrote it. Otherwise, there'd be bad reviews, and I never saw any. So it's something that you did.
What did you think about the book, actually? Just out of curiosity.
My friend Mario read most of it. I only started it, so I couldn't get through it all. Because I have other jobs. They do this full time,
Sure.
so I don't have a lot of time to play games, read books, watch movies,
Right.
work. I loved it, what I read, but my friend Mario, who couldn't be here with us because he has another job as well, he's the one who wrote it. He loved it. He talked about it in one of our shows. He sent us the link.
did, okay.
He said he told about the story that you wrote about Hideki Kamiya when he was in an accident and Shinji Mikami brought him some dirty magazines and his mother was there. He talked about.
It wasn't Mikami-san. It was oh my gosh, it's a little
Don't
early.
worry, we're all. It's like.
The writer of Resident Evil 2. Man, I'm just blanking on his name right now, which is embarrassing.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. We have a lot of names in our head, so.
Now I want to know what his name
Okay.
was. God, it's definitely in this book somewhere. Oh gosh, no. If I don't find out his name, I'm never gonna.
Yeah, you're never gonna be able to let
Who's
it
the
go.
person?
I get you. Don't worry.
Who's the person they brought on to fix the story of Noboru Sugimura?
Sugimura.
Yeah, who passed away 20 years ago.
Oh.
Sugimura Sensei was, I think, the one who brought him.
Well, our friend Mario recommended the book because we have a section of the show that's like all these recommending, so we recommend all stuff. He said the book is great. He told about that interview. He incorrectly cited Shinji Mikami, but He loved it. Yeah, it was a gift that he gave him. He loves Resident Evil even more. I love Resident Evil. I've been playing it since the first one, in the 90s, and he has more free time than I do. But what I read, I really enjoyed it. I also have it. I have the English version actually. I prefer reading things in the original language if I can do it. But I enjoyed it because it's how you mix maybe the way you write it is like you have this. There's some part that I felt like are maybe a little bit of novelization, maybe something like that. Then more documentary. So I found that interesting.
Okay, I'm actually very happy you were able to detect that or perceive that, because I am ultimately telling a story in a way. It's not. This isn't a Wikipedia, right?
No.
Where it's just like one fact after another. It's a story. There's a sense of organicness to it, and it's supposed to be something that I hope at least it's easy to follow and it's logically connected.
No, it is. Don't worry.
And yeah, I'm glad that it feels like a journey for people who are reading it.
My friend Mario read the Spanish edition, and he said it was great too. So he didn't say, there's this part. He can read the English too. He's fluent in English. So,
sure.
And like I said, he's even a bigger fan than I am. He has all the special editions. He has the signatures, everything. And he read the Spanish edition. I read a bit of the English one. So he didn't say anything. He's very harsh usually when there's mistakes. So and he never said anything. So you can feel confident because Mario didn't say anything.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you, Mario.
You were talking about your other works as well. So I don't know if you could tell us a little bit about your work with Limited Run. Maybe you just talk about Fujiwara-san.
So I am the Japan Business Development Manager at Limited Run Games, and my responsibility is to facilitate Limited Run's collaborations with Japanese publishers. There's a language component there. There's a lot of business development. There's a lot of production-related work. I worked with Fujiwara-san on Tomba. Actually, our relationship through the book was what allowed me to reach back out to him after it came out and said, hey, when you did the interview for me, you talked a lot about Tomba, and I worked with the composer of Tomba, Harumi Fujita, who you worked with back in the day, and she really wants to re-release the soundtrack. But I also work at a game publisher, and we have the means of bringing Tomba back on modern platforms, and that's how the project was born. It took a few years to make it happen, but I'm happy that it did. And then Fujiwara-san. Really, really intelligent person, I guess. That's the best way I could describe him. He's super nice. He did have a bit of a scary and intimidating reputation back in the day with a lot of the people he worked with, because he was the scary boss, right?
Yeah.
But he's such a really nice and thoughtful person, and I think his experience and his repertoire speaks for himself. He's one of my favorite people to work with. But outside of Fujiwara-san, since we're in Brazil, I guess I'll mention this, but I'm also the producer of a game called Eartheon, which is
the more recent one from Yuzo Koshiro.
Yes, so I work with Yuzo Koshiro in the music space and for Eartheon. I'm the producer of Eartheon. And
he was here recently for the RetroCon.
I was with him.
Oh,
so we were here we're doing this interview in October, right? But we were here in late July.
That was your third time here in Brazil.
That was my third time in Brazil, yes. And the weather was also terrible.
It must be you then.
Yeah, well, I went to Rio and the weather was perfect, so I don't know if...
Just joking.
Like working with Japanese creators, it started out as a casual thing, and then it became a music thing, and now there are things about production as well that I get to work in, and it's great. I love that Limited Run is committed to re-releasing Japanese games and giving Japanese creators
preserving history, I guess you could say, in a way. Yes.
I think the company really cares about the games that it releases.
How do you feel, and you probably talked this before already, but the public gets renewed, so the big breakups in the saga. You know, the Resident Evil 4, then Resident Evil 7. There was a first person Resident Evil before, you know, but the one by Eidos. But let's not talk about that. But how do you feel about those changes? You know, because
I think we're coming up on the 30th anniversary. Have you ever met anyone or anything that was the same for that long of a period of time? Oh, wow. Wow.
No, just kidding. No,
Tell me more. And I think it's just natural that people change, things change. If you think about it, the average person starts working when they're, 22 years old maybe, if they went to university. If they didn't, maybe a little earlier. If they went to grad school, maybe a little later. And then the typical retirement age is around 60 to 65, right? So that's basically more or less 35 to 40 years one person can expect to work in their lifetime. And then as the older they get, they can't just keep doing the same things that they did, you know, when they started working. And so what I'm trying to get at is that it's just inevitable. Different people are going to come into the process. Companies will change. The market will change. The technology obviously has changed. And I just think it's inevitable that new things are going to pop up. And I really think that games that do not change with the times, that do not keep up with trends or evolving interests, new generations, right? Gen Z, many Gen Zers were not alive when the first Resident Evil came out, right? And they have different preferences. And so you have to keep up with that, or else the IP just will not be viable commercially.
Yeah.
Right. I have a funny anecdote. Interestingly enough, when Yuzo Koshiro and I arrived in Sao Paulo airport, the immigration officer knew who he was.
Oh.
You're Yuzo Koshiro. You're the composer of Streets of Rage and Shinobi. Wow. Welcome to Brazil. That's at the passport control, right? Typically, that's an unpleasant experience for a lot of people, right? But Yuzo Koshiro was recognized. And I would imagine the immigration official was probably like in his mid-30s, maybe early 40s. But contrasting to that, Yoko Shimomura was entering an airport at some point, and the person was like, "Oh, what do you do? What's your job?" And she's like, "I'm a game musician. I make music for games." And then the person who was probably in his early mid-20s was like, "Oh, what games have you worked on?" Street Fighter 2.
Nothing.
Gen Zer did not know about Street Fighter 2, right? And she's like, "Oh, Final Fantasy 15." And then apparently he was like, oh, I like 7 more. Because 7 remake came out, right? And it's just one of those things that reminds not just me, but anyone who's been in the industry as long as Shimomura and Koshiro have, for example, that you kind of have to evolve with the times. Or you could do what Koshiro did and just make a Mega Drive game. But then obviously you're targeting a specific set of people, right? And you're not necessarily going to reach the widest audience. So,
Sega was very big in Brazil.
Yes.
You know that.
Yes.
It's strange because in the rest of America, Sega was big, not as big as in Brazil. So Brazil is like its own special place for Sega.
It's very distinct.
Chile is Nintendo, just
Sure.
Nintendo and PlayStation.
Sure, very distinct. Like Brazil was also like a big Xbox market, right?
I think it was.
Back in the day, and
mostly Xbox was maybe used because of the piracy here in South America. So that's also why Sega was big in Argentina, mostly because of the piracy. Like the Famicom. We have the family game was the Famiclone.
Right,
that's why people know the Famicom in Argentina. But because of the piracy, we're developing countries,
Sure.
So that's usually what gives the companies that kind of opportunity. Doesn't mean anything for them because they don't make any money, but
the Mega Drive was not that big in Japan, funny enough.
No, we know.
Right.
Yes,
And
Sega was.
so,
The Saturn was. The Dreamcast was, and it's like
Saturn was big in Japan.
yeah,
Bigger than N64, in fact.
Yeah.
But the Dreamcast was definitely not very big there. So, but anyway, I think in terms of my personal take on how Resident Evil games have changed, 4 is my favorite. The original 4 is my favorite. 7 is in my top 5. So Capcom can keep doing this as long as they keep making it good, right? And so the next Resident Evil game, Requiem, is by the RE7 director again, Nakanishi-san. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Resident Evil has been able to reinvent itself, mostly successfully. You know, I enjoy 6, and a lot of people don't.
Okay, that's fair.
I love 6. I played with a girlfriend back in the day, so we had a blast.
Good.
You know, so it was,
that's amazing.
Don't.
I mean, a lot of people don't, but many people that I have a lot of respect for, like Resident Evil 6, Gene Park from the Washington Post.
Yeah, he posts a lot on Twitter. Yeah,
he does, yes, but he's a big fan of Resident Evil 6. Loves the game, and you know what? I respect him for that because he has very good reasons to do so. I mean, you know, you just have to segment, right? Like, you can have personal experiences that are not necessarily the same as mainstream, you know, opinions, right? Is it true Resident Evil 6 almost killed the IP? Yes, to be honest. If we're going to be real, it didn't sell as well as they needed it to, and it could have, if they hadn't fixed that problem, it could have ended up going down the way of Silent Hill or other IP for, you know, so.
Well, I think that maybe that has more to do with Konami than with Silent Hill. You know, Konami changed a lot their structure. Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure. But
every situation is specific, obviously, to that IP, to that company. But basically, if you make something the market doesn't react to very well, and you're not able to, you know, pivot in the correct direction, then the IP could die, right? Conceivably, and so. I think Resident Evil 6 was definitely a game where that was a very, very, very real possibility, where we don't know what to do with it creatively. The sales are going to go down, but the costs are going to go up. What do we do? And I think, to Capcom's credit specifically, they didn't give up, right?
Yeah.
You know, I can't imagine what it's like to pour my heart into a project and then everybody hates it, right? Or people say bad things about it. I don't know what that's like, to be honest. You know, maybe my next book will be bad and people will...
I'm sure it won't. Don't worry. I'm sure it won't. But
I think, like, I'm glad you enjoy RE6. Like, I actually play it from time to time.
I had fun with it. That's all I can say. You know, I'm having fun with the games. It's what they're for. So...
You know,
I enjoyed it all.
Is it an example of exemplary game design? I don't personally think so. But you know what? If you have fun with it, go ahead.
You know, I enjoyed the remake of Splatterhouse, you know, in 2010. I don't know if you played that one.
I have not, no.
And everyone hates it. And I loved it. It was a really, maybe I'll say stupid, but really fun game. And I'm playing games for fun. I mean, maybe I can learn something, you know, maybe the plot is good. But in the end, I just want to have fun.
Good, I'm happy to hear that.
So I had fun with Resident Evil 6. But yeah, you told me you played Requiem already? Or
I have, yeah. So at Gamescom in Germany.
Okay.
PAX West and Tokyo Game Show. So I've played, on PC, PS5, PS5 Pro, and Switch 2, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've played it about 10 times.
Okay. How's the Switch 2 version coming along?
I think it's excellent.
Oh, great. Thank God.
At TGS, you could only play it in handheld mode. So I don't know if it scales as well on the TV, in dock mode, but considering you're playing it in your hands, and it's the newest Resident Evil game, I think it played very well. Like, I think obviously the hair technology that they've been pushing with RE Engine games recently, that's not in that version, but it felt pretty smooth. I didn't perceive there to be any slowdown that like really stuck out to me. Like, if you played like Resident Evil 6 on the Switch when it came out, like, it's nothing like that where there's so much like frame rate instability.
Well,
it wasn't 60 frames per second. I was told that it was somewhere between 30 and 60. I'm not really the best person to
it's a personal
measure
opinion.
a
Don't
frame
worry.
rate.
Just
Talk to my friend John Linneman, Digital Foundry for that. Shaping up to be great. The demo, you know, the game got announced 4 months ago, so I think everyone's tired of looking at this section of the game.
Yeah, probably.
It's basically like another RE7 kind of setup. Remember when Jack chases you?
Yeah.
Long hallway, places to hide. It's a lot like that.
More horror focused than
Horror
8,
focused.
maybe. 8 was
Much more horror
okay.
focused.
8 was a little campy but fun. 7
was-
was a bit. I enjoyed 8.
There wasn't anything in Village that I think was really analogous to what we're seeing in the demo of Requiem. I guess there's the Bieneviento house.
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit, but it's
Oh,
still
no.
it's not quite the same.
Okay, so something entirely new we can expect from Requiem. You say we can expect something entirely new from Requiem,
Gameplay wise,
or at least from what you played from the demo.
well, yeah, I guess if you phrase the question that way, it doesn't feel new in that regard.
Okay.
The demo itself, like it actually feels too much like Resident Evil 7, which is not a bad thing in my opinion. We haven't had that style of gameplay since RE7,
Yeah.
9 years ago. So I think I would be supportive of another game in that style, but yeah, like Capcom has not shown anything yet that specifically indicates there's a new system in place. Like I'm hoping personally that, especially since we're going to go to Raccoon City, right? That's got to be an open environment to some extent. Like hopefully we get some interesting combination of different things, maybe with the combat system or the exploration that make Requiem a very unique game. Hopefully, pure speculation.
Oh well, you mind if we talk a little about Resident Evil 4? You said it was your favorite.
Sure.
Well, I think Resident Evil 4 was probably the first game that I was hyped for. Because it
The
was,
original, right?
Yeah, because the early days of the internet, the early 2000s, at least for us in South America, late 90s. So I was watching all the builds, the Hangman build, and I was like, oh, this looks incredible. Then the game came out, and it was different, but it was also excellent. I played it so many times, and I loved it. Besides, I was a GameCube fan, a Nintendo fan, and when they announced it for the PS2, I was like,
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, I was 20, maybe 24.
Yeah,
I was a little stupid back then.
I'm a big Nintendo fan too, obviously. So it's
I was still in the 16 bits war, I was still in that mindset. Nowadays, I just don't care. I just want to play games. I try to have all the consoles. But when Resident Evil 4 came out, it was a very big change, and we have been watching the development for so many years, the changes. What did this first change in the series mean for you? I mean, the action, the change from puzzle action to mostly action,
Yeah, like I think the action part, was definitely a very big evolution of the formula. But I remember being a little bit more surprised at the lack of zombies.
Yeah.
Resident Evil equals zombies, right?
Yeah.
That was a huge part of the series' identity for almost a decade. And now this new game comes out and eschews that. But the game itself was so good and so well designed, and it was really not like anything we had ever seen up until that point for any video game, right? And I think that's why, what does it have on Metacritic right now? Like a 96 or a 95, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't get to that point if you're not doing something right.
Well, not only that, it also shaped the industry in a different way.
Yes.
How many games try to be Resident Evil
The
4?
Xbox 360 era of games, that ecosystem, like, and the PlayStation 3 for that matter, like every other game seems to take something from Resident Evil 4.
Well, Gears of War,
Gears of War,
Cliff Bleszinski even
Uncharted.
said, Resident Evil 4 was like the inspiration.
Yeah, so very much like an
Mm.
industry-defining game.
But did it shock you at first, or did you enjoy it, or was
I was very surprised. I do think it's worth mentioning that there was Resident Evil Dead Aim, which it's a different kind of game, but there's a bit of a parallel there. Like when you're exploring, it's third person. When you're aiming, when you're fighting, it's in first person. So that viewpoint change, I think, could be seen as a kind of, it's like a progression.
Yeah, the missing link. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think that was intentional. Like, I don't think Capcom was like, oh, well, Dead Aim is going to be the setup for Resident Evil 4. There were two separate projects, but like as someone who played Dead Aim and then went to RE4, I was like, well, yeah, there's, like, we already got the Resident Evil where we changed perspectives when we're aiming. There was a lot of experimentation with the IP by that point. And so, Resident Evil 4 was a very surprising game in a lot of ways. But I think I had some preparation for it leading into its release.
Okay, and what about the other spin-offs like Outbreak?
Outbreak? Oh yeah, Outbreak.
The online, the PS2 one.
Of course.
Did you enjoy? Did you play it? Or?
Yeah, I had my own circle of friends whom I played Outbreak with for hundreds of hours.
Oh, okay.
Especially File 2. There's that boss rush mode. I think it's called Showdown.
Yeah, I think it was called. I haven't played it in 20 years, so I can't remember.
It's a very twitchy kind of game, so I'm actually quite bad at it. Plus, the internet wasn't the best back in the day, right?
No.
There was broadband, but there was a lot of disconnects, and Capcom servers weren't very good. But I after Requiem was announced, I went back and played both Outbreak games as Alyssa.
No, that's perfect. Yes, we want to play them too online.
Yeah.
Current technology that you can, but
you can.
We haven't done it yet, but yeah. Well, the spin-offs are an entirely different thing, so let's not focus too much on that. Well, I think we can have a wrap up. Alex, future projects. What are you looking for? Thank you for Earthion, by the way.
Oh,
thank you for working on that. As an old school gamer, and a person who loves shooters, and a person who loves Yuzo Koshiro's music, I was thrilled for that. But future projects with other Brainwave, limited run, your own books, anything you'd like to share with the people from Colemono?
I am working on my second book. I hope to have more information about that at some point in the future. Projects I'm working on, obviously I can't really divulge, talk about anything we haven't announced. But yeah, Earthion came out recently, and that's still an ongoing thing, especially with the Mega Drive version. Tomba 2 has been announced, right?
Yeah.
And I'm obviously working on that. What else is worth talking about? Well, maybe this isn't a future project, but last year, another game I worked on, and adjacent to Resident Evil, was Clock Tower Rewind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed working on that a lot. That was a cool project. I think those are the big ones at the moment.
Okay.
There's always a lot in the pipeline that I wish I could talk about today, but
no, it's okay. It's okay. I haven't played the Clock Tower remake yet. I love the original. We even played it online a few times.
You should. It's not a remake. It's the original with some tweaks to it.
I will, but like I said, I don't have enough time.
Sure,
You know how it is. Well, Alex, anything you'd like to tell to the people of Colemono, Chile, Argentina, about your book? Those who haven't.
Yeah.
It's in Spanish. Está en español, si necesitan.
This is Itchy Tasty and Unofficial History of Resident Evil, and it's about the development and production of every Resident Evil between 1 and 4. It came out originally in 2021, and it's like I interviewed a lot of the people who directed and produced the games, and they gave me their personal anecdotes about how they felt when they made the game, what their expectations were, and their feelings on its success after so many years. And I think these are anecdotes and stories that I think are worth reading. So I really do hope you enjoy it. There is a European Spanish version by Héroes de Papel, Heroes of Paper. Paper Heroes is the name of the publisher.
Héroes de Papel.
In Spain, and I'm not sure if they've distributed the book here in Latin America. I hope they do. I don't know how that works. I've got the English version as well, the original language.
It's not unusual that we get the Spanish version. So, like I said, I have the English one, but I'm sure the one that's floating around here is, in Chile, Argentina, is the Spanish one. So usually first they bring that one, and then maybe sometime later they make the Latin American version but like I said, we can manage. It's not that big a difference. So,
I mean, if somebody wants to do a Latin American Spanish version, I'd be very happy to have that conversation. I really would love to see a Brazilian Portuguese version, and there's been interest, and I'm hoping I can make that happen somehow.
Okay, I'll get to work on the Latin American version then. I'll make time.
Please.
But well, he's Alex Aniel. He's the writer of Daisy, and he's been with us in Colemono. Gente, un saludo muy grande y nos seguimos viendo.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.